Because, like for example, like when we talk about karma, like punching somebody is bad. It's a bad karma, let's say. But if we try to be more intellectual and want to know why punching somebody is bad, why not good, why it has to be bad. It is not that Buddha decided that punching is bad, therefore if you do it, it becomes bad karma. It is a very natural law, because you have, if you are being punched by somebody, you know that it makes you feel pain. So you have education there. So having that kind of education, when you want to harm somebody, you know what to do. You know how to punch. And if you do that, you are collecting what we call negative karma, because bad karma, because your motivation is bad. Well, you can call it good, but you see the good and bad is again very relative. So here we have to call it bad because this gives you pain, this gives you suffering. Likewise, we don't believe in a hell realm somewhere, 500 miles downwards, but we believe in an experience that comes as a result of your actions and a result of what kind of person you are. It depends, There are some people who are very uptight, we have a lot of uptight. I'm sure here, many people here, uptight. Wherever they go, everything is uptight. They get angry towards everything. Nothing can make them smile. Nothing can make them laugh. There are certain people who are jolly, and they should not, if they go to a funeral, they might even burst into laugh, It's like this. And anyway, as an inner sign, for those who have done, collected lots of negative emotions in the past life or whatever, then they will see this kind of different visions, like thousands of lions with big fangs comes towards you, or things like that. But again, you see, I made a mistake already. Fangs, I told you, because fangs is something frightening for me. But, different people have a different kinds of phenomena. For some, fang is maybe nothing. For some, maybe smile is more frightening. For example, for those Japanese who go on killing those whales and seals, maybe when they are in this stage, this seal and whales may come smiling, and then they might, make them really scared. You see, when people ask me, where is hell? Or, where is, 6 realms, 6 realms. It's so easy. For example, Asura realm, we can easily say it's Iran and Iraq. You see, many of that part of the place, there's lots of jealousy. And experience of Asura realm is a production of jealousy. Anyway, this will come during the triple vision. Okay. I should save this, otherwise I will run out of things to say. Anyway, as an inner sign, this man will sort of stretch their legs and try to escape, things like that. Panic, cry out. For those who have good signs, and for those who are kind of romantic, have good caused good karma and kind of romantic person, they will see the different visions of dakinis coming to them to receive them. I guess for conservative monks, all those Shariputras and Mughal Putras, they will come. Yeah. And as a secret sign, some, you will see a flaming torch, like a strong torch, facing towards you, something like that. This is a little part of the second Bardo, so we will continue tomorrow. 7 questions. How do we know this is actually true? Very easy, by judging the natural Bardo of this life. You understand, this is important answer, How can you prove that you are living? But what is your experience? How can you prove that you are experiencing? Well, we can prove that this egg will be ready after 5 minutes by judging the way, the temperature, and how the water is boiling. For those who believes in cause, condition, and effect, we can prove everything. When the cause and conditions are there, And when there is no obstacles obstructing it, the result has to come. That's how the farmers live. Farmers, they try to gather the cause and conditions. They try to, protect from the obstacles. The first question: what is the difference between the rainbow style of dying and the Dakinis way, as both do not leave anything behind? One takes a little bit longer than the other. Then, how to control karmic mind in our karmic wind. How to control karmic wind in our daily life. Is it on Thursday? Is it on Thursday, anti-frantic meditation? Tuesday. It's on Tuesday. What I'm saying is that you have to do calm and abiding meditation. You have to just be calm, calm.
Yeah.
Shine, samatha, vipassana. Due to the multiple experience during the process of dying, how will recollection of the triple gem help at the time if we are not good meditators? The third stage of the Bardo will explain this. Okay? 4 more. At this time. Usually you should do this during the natural Bardo of this lifetime. 3 more. Okay, now this can go to quite a long questions. In the Lamdai tradition, they believe that a person has 3 kind of force: karma, karmic force, life force, merit, force of merit. Yes. So if one of these is finished, only one, then you can kind of control this wind. That's where when you go to the doctors, and doctors can actually help. Eating medicines, stuff like that, Or if you're more superstitious, then go to the long life initiation, things like that. Now, if 2 or 3, I think 3, all of them are finished. Oh, no, 2. If 2 of them are finished, then nothing helps. But it doesn't matter for Buddhists because there is next rebirth, That's the biggest relief we have. 2 more. Yes. What about the donating the organs? Yeah. You see, the practice of Mahayana, or bodhicitta practice, is a practice of motivation. Actually, I would say that every practice of Buddhism is a practice of motivation. So, if you have giving up your organs with good motivation, I really like that. I think you should do that. 1 more. Yep.
What is the death process like for those beings who die on the sudden death?
I think 3rd stage we will explain. Well, here I have a present for you tonight. Now, you can pick up. I will leave it here. I thought it would be quite good if you frame it.
If you
frame it on some. It's some collection of religious truths. The first is Taoism. It says shit happens. And then Confucianism. Confucius say shit happens. Then Buddhism. If shit happens, it isn't really shit. Then Zen. What is the sound of shit happening? Then Hinduism. This shit happened before. Then Islam. I wonder why this person didn't get any sentence. Sentence to death. Islam, it says, if shit happens, it is the will of Allah. Let shit happen to someone else. Then Catholicism. If shit happens, you deserve it. Then agnosticism.
What is that? I don't know what is that.
It says, what is this shit? Then atheism. I don't believe this shit, it says. Then Judaism. Why does this shit always happen to us? Then what Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's Witness. Then they say, let me in your house and I will tell you why shit happens. Stages that we talked last night. Are we all here? Maybe we should wait for a while. Professor Wong has become very quiet. The different stages that we talked last night. As I did, I'm sure most of you have found it kind of technical. And one has a tendency that one does not want to believe such things, because dissolution is always something that we ignore or we forget. Dissolution, or degeneration, because there's always this very high expectation for developing or generation or generating. So in the midst of this expectation of becoming better and becoming the best and develop and become whatever, the strong or whatever, then we forget this degeneration part. We forget this cessation part. Not only that, for instance, some of you who are practicing like Hey Vajra Sadhana, the practitioner of sadhanas, let's say, even though you are quite serious practitioner, practitioner on the sadhanas, your concentration is completely dedicated towards how to develop the faces, the arms, the attributes, the color, and all this. So this somehow ignores automatically the completion stage of the sadhana, which is the emptiness aspect. So that's why we are always stuck with the symbolism. So then you must know that if you want to know or if you want to study about wisdom, if you want to practice the wisdom, instead of opening a book of wisdom, or instead of asking or raising questions on the wisdom, it is always better to ask about ignorance, study about ignorance. Only that way you know the wisdom. So I find that sometimes if we want to know the dying, living consciously part, then it is important to know dying consciously part also, technically also. You may find, as I said, the things that we talked last night very technical, but the technical part of our living situation is even more complicated and even more meaningless sometimes. That's why many of us, we don't have gut to live. I was talking last night with one of my oldest friends. I don't know, some of you recall him, David Chi, and we talked about something happened in the court, judicial court, and there's someone who wanted to commit suicide, and by law, I don't know in which country, maybe it's in Singapore, by law, this person who attempt to commit suicide is can be prosecuted as guilty or something, but these, so there's all these prosecutors, all these juries, all this, all medias, all are against him, this man, who is, who completely despises this life, and who is kind of lunatic, maybe, who is kind of out of his mind, that he wants to commit suicide. Everybody kind of look down, and he was asked many questions, and he was in the custody, and while he was in custody, he told many of his this police and the attorneys that once he is free from this prison, that he is going to die. Definitely. There's no stopping. So when the time comes to give the sentence, the judge said, well, this man is a very brave man. Although we think that this man is very coward, or, kind of not well. Who can do this? Not me, pointing himself. Judge, I can't do this. Jumping from maybe like 20 stories high building, I can't do this. Who can do this? You, lawyer, the prosecutors, defenders, juries, nobody can do this. But he can do this. Therefore, he has a gut to die. Then, but something is wrong there, because he doesn't have gut to live. So he is again back to the square A, coward, you see. So, and another thing, all those technical, stages that we talked yesterday, you may think that this only happens since I'm teaching through the text. You may consider that these things are happening only when the death happens, when the death, so-called, this death happens. Now, before I go through this, I want to ask you one question. Should we have this gut to live and die? Or should we not bother about this gut and just live blindly and die blindly? Kiam? Wong, Professor Wong? We should have gut. So, see, he doesn't have gut to live. So you don't have gut. I can understand why you said loudly we should have the gut. Confidence, having a confidence to live is something difficult. I guess we really don't care about this so much. Anybody wants to answer this? Or this is a little bit confusing. Anyway, all these technical things that happened last night, what I'm trying to say is all those dying stages, different stages of dying process is happening every moment. So which means that there is no space that is not Bardo. Everything is a gap. And in order to become a gap, you need this, the front and the behind, you see? The thing that, the definition we talked last time. So we lost this definition of the gap now. Because even the past and the future itself is a gap. So our life is not really rewinding, not really forwarding, but not also playing, but always on pause. But we keep on going, thinking that we are forwarding, we are rewinding, and we are playing. Yeah. That's why I think we talked this few years ago, that when you get enlightenment, for an enlightened being, there is no experience of Bardo. One of the reasons why there is no reason, this experience of Bardo is because for an enlightened being there is no idea of past and future. So this descending of the elements and nadis are always coming. But then, okay, now let's say there's two kind of death, two kind of dying process. One is the subtle dying, which is always happening. One is the gross dying that happens later, or at the end of this so-called living. Yogis and yoginis like you should be trying to catch this subtle dying as you practice the sadhanas, as you see your teachers, as you walk along, the park, as you took this MRT, yeah. Now, this is a slightly different text that I'm bringing, I'm referring to. So, according to this text, we can almost say that we have two types of gap. One is kind of good gap and one is kind of bad gap. When the yogis and yoginis, when they nakedly, without any judgment, without any preconceptions, without any pretense, without any planning, when they look at the life, the process of the life, as you walk in the MRT, as it opens the door, as you walk in and as it shuts the door, as you watch moment by moment of your life, then, and as if you can remain on such kind of gap, then this is almost like the highest practice, which Nyingmapas try to nominate as a Dzogchen practice, which Sakyapas, Kondeyerme, which are Kajupas, Mahamudras, and things like that, Now this between bad and good bad, this is not something completely separate, but I need to sort of tell you as bad and good. Actually this bad gap is not other than this good gap. But when you don't recognize it, when you don't appreciate this good gap, then it becomes a bad gap. Now why I say, when you don't know how to appreciate, how do you not appreciate? Now if you were to ask this question, you see this gap, which is nothing to do with the past, which is nothing to do with the future, which is nothing to do with the beauty, ugly, all this, two dualism. This gap which is not corrupted by this dualism, right, left, past, future. Now this gap, which we said in the warrior teaching, we call it presentness, didn't we? But it's slightly, well, okay, practically you can say this is presentness. Now this one, people like us, when we remain on that, we usually don't remain, of course. We are always busy with the past or the future. But when we, out of the blue, when a stone fall on your head, and then suddenly you become kind of, blank or whatever, then what happens is that you get so shocked. You get so shocked by not having past and not having future, that you don't know how to use your diary book anymore. People like us, we all are very attached to the past or the future. And we don't even know that this presentness or this gap exists. Right? Think about what you are thinking right now. Something past or something future. The presentness is never there. Now there are some small-time practitioners, Then these small-time practitioners, out of the blessings of the guru or your gurus being a little bit, wrathful, or maybe gurus being a little bit out of order, or being outrageous, or being strict, or being compassionate, or being kind, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Your guru's help and your devotion's help. You not know the real gap, but you kind of have the idea of this gap. So when they see this as kind of a fake gap, they freaked out, Freak out, it's kind of paranoid. But do you think that when they get paranoid, they will cry and they will jump or they will shout for help? When they get paranoid, they will cry and they will jump or they will shout for help? No. Because this practitioner, this small-time practitioner, has been very well trained to pretend. So not only that this small-time practitioner has this pretense or the posing of the worldly influence, but now this small-time practitioner has spiritual pretense. So when these small-time practitioners, when they become better and better, hopefully not worse, become better and better, they tend to like this gap more and more, and they tend to dislike this past and the future, because they find less problems within the gap. They find easy, easy going, easy listening, easy behaving. Just everything becomes easy. So things that has been maybe a few years ago, things that has been something very important in your life, if that happens to this time, then you really don't care. You really don't get so excited. Things that is something terrible happen. If something terrible happens this time, that will not really shock as much as it shocked before. So this practitioner is now beginning to get addicted to this gap. As it is an addiction to the presentness, the side effect is there is an addiction of disliking the past and the future. Now this is the time when you realize this Buddhists become more selfish than any other beings, and they bring more excuse than any other beings. You see. Now these are very practical, advices.
But
I don't know why I'm telling you this here. Yeah. So, So this addiction of the presentness has to be get rid of. Now we are still not talking about that bad gap. Compared to that bad gap we talked earlier, this gap that which you are addicted to is 1,000 times better. The bad gap is this idea of shocks, idea of uncertainty. Do you remember? We talked earlier, day before yesterday, to maybe one of the best definition of the effect of the Bardo is uncertainty. Can somebody tell me what is the definition of shock? Shock, what is shock? When I say shock, what is it? Because I'm a little bit in doubt whether I should use this word shock. I think that unfamiliar with. Maybe that is good, instead of shock. Bardo state, there is lots of fear in us. The fear is because there is always a knowledge that something unfamiliar. But we talked about having this natural Bardo of this life. Now this indirectly tells us that in our day-to-day living situation, we are always facing something unfamiliar. And we are always in shock. But somehow we are all like a masochist. We like these shocks, these subtle shocks. We don't want the gross shocks because we can perceive it. We are so ignorant that we don't even know that shocks are shocks. Yeah. Therefore, we actually have no phenomena of unfamiliar thing, and there's no phenomena of familiar thing. Tonight, when you go back, think carefully. How many unfamiliarity is coming? How many familiarity is coming? Are you really familiar to your father, mother, your house, things like that? Or are you really being familiar with the other? This will slowly make you think, make you realize that you are actually alone in this world. Yesterday, the lady here asked, how would we know that such kind of this experience of the Bardo, like deities and things like this, how would we know that such things will happen? Now, use this kind of logic. We are alone here. We see all these people who some of these people act like your friend. Many of these act like strangers. Some of these people act like your enemy. Wrathful deities, peaceful deities, everything is there. This subtle Bardo is very difficult to explain. Therefore, in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, brings you the gross Bardo, the Bardo or the gross dying. Earlier we talked about the subtle dying and the gross dying. Subtle dying is very difficult to understand. That's why we bring this gross dying to make you understand and let you use this gross dying as an example to know the subtle dying. So here we have a very elaborate description of different shocks and different kinds of paranoid situations as the 5 elements and the 5 wind degenerates or escapes. The 5 root ones. Then the branch elements and the branch airs will also begin to dysfunction. Then the degeneration of the sense faculties will all dissolve. The energy of the body, energy of the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the body will also degenerate. And certainly, as these things dissolve, then one will be not able to perceive forms, sounds, smell, taste, or textures. So your sense is not working anymore. Or maybe it's degenerating now. So you in the beginning you see colors and shapes, but all wrong. Black into white, white into red, and things like that. I guess that's why those dying people, when you give the best food, they really don't really feel like eating, no appetite and things like that. And slowly, gradually this being will not know how to differentiate between what is beauty and what is ugly. Does that ring any bell in your head? Chua? Come on. Does that ring any bell? This Bardo being, very ordinary being, very, very ordinary being, okay? He has never ever heard who is Buddha. Something like that. But because his sense has become so powerless that he doesn't know how to make differentiations. Does that ring any bell in your head?